There we go. Okay, so we're going to share our Mandarin media with all of you, and we hope that it'll help you guys the way that it has helped all of us. So I'm going to start with books and things that I have found, and I have a huge Amazon list that I've been running for everyone, and I'm going to share that in the comments after I'm done, so that way you guys can see what I put on my Amazon list, and then you'll get a better idea of what you're looking for on Amazon, because Amazon actually has a lot of great resources out there if we know what we're looking for. And I kind of learned my lesson with one of these things, but my husband was like, no, that's great, it's great. So it's actually one of the books. I'm going to grab my books over here. So I've bought 3 things of books from Amazon, and because I have 3 different learners at home. I have middle school, he's in 8th grade, so he'll be going into 9th grade next year. Then I have a 5th grader and a 3rd grader. So I have different levels of learning. So I bought 3 different kinds of books for them to use. And the first one was, I bought these little fairy tale books that have all been translated into Mandarin for us. And this is just some of them. Like the stack, I think, came with like 35 books, 25 books. So I got 25 books for $20, I think it was, on Amazon. And so inside it just translates our common fairy tales that we know into Mandarin. And it also has the pinyin, which is good because for my 3rd grader, I'm sorry, that was really fuzzy. For my 3rd grader, it was he is struggling, so for him, Pinyin is actually very helpful. And then it has the characters right above, so that way he can follow along and look up what he doesn't recognize. So another one, and this is the one that I made the mistake on. So we have the Mandarin Companion series, and these are really good because they are in with no pinyin, which is better for my older readers because they should know most of these characters. And if not, then there's a glossary at the bottom of the page. So it highlights some of the words or phrases up here that they may not recognize. So that was good. I liked that one. And then, so the mistake I made, and because I didn't realize what I needed to look for or anything, but now I know. So right up here, it says it's in traditional Chinese. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. It's so blurry. So it says traditional Chinese right there. So that means it's still in Mandarin, but there are more traditional characters in there. So there's characters that they may not recognize because of that. So the good thing about that is my husband was saying it's good because when they travel maybe over to China or they're translating documents from Mandarin into English and everything, they may run into some traditional Chinese. So it's actually a good thing for them to learn the traditional characters as well as the simplified characters. So my husband told me I was going to return it and get one of the other ones that was in simplified, so that on here you will see it does, as I found out, label that if it's traditional Chinese or if it's simplified. And so if you're looking for straight simplified, so that they can understand and read it all, then you want to look for the ones that say simplified on there on the cover, and it'll say it in the headlines too. But if you're okay with them trying to learn the traditional as well, then any of those books would be great for you. The other one is, guys, I need you to leave now. Thank you so much. Sorry. So the next one that I got was The Rise of the Monkey King. And I really like this one too, because this one has a huge dictionary actually in the back, or glossary that they call it. And it is pages long, where they can look up characters in the book that they were reading. If they don't recognize a character, they can go back to the back of the book in the glossary and look it up and learn it and not just like, oh, okay, that's what, but they can like learn it and everything. So I thought that was really good. And then you have the pinging on one side and you have characters on the other. So when I'm reading this with my kids, I have them read it out loud to me, and I take a paper and I cover the one side and I have them read in the characters to me. So that way, I'm stretching their minds, I'm exercising their minds and making them, really read it and recognize it. Because as far as I understand, the AP test is going to be in characters and not in pinging. So they need to know their characters. So that's why I really stress with them learning their characters. And then what I'm going to start doing from now on is when they don't recognize a character, we're going to write it down on a list and we're going to make flashcards out of it. So that way they can keep practicing and commit that new character to memory. And then if you go to the middle of the book, the entire story is in English as well. So that way they can read it in English, get familiar with the story, and then when they're reading it in the Chinese, in the Mandarin, it makes a little bit more sense as they're translating it in their heads and trying to understand the whole story and what it's about. So these are just 3 of the books that I have purchased for my kids for right now. There are other books on there that I have on my list, and they range all the way from preschool age to high school age. So there are a couple of novels that I've put on there that I thought were really interesting. So when we have really advanced readers, they can expand their book reading preferences to things that would be maybe more entertaining for them instead of just reading little fairy tale books. I do have my oldest 2 reading the fairy tale books because I think it's a great refresher for them to keep it fresh in their minds and all that. But I do have them also focus on those older books. What are some other things? Oh, so the other things that I have on there are also workbooks. So they are character writing workbooks, so they can practice writing their characters as well. So that way they get character penmanship exercises as well. If you have multiple learners in your household, what we do to expand the life of those workbooks is I make copies of those pages on my printer, and I print it out that way. So that way it's not a use one and done kind of workbook. That way all of my children will have the chance to use that. Or I was talking to Craig earlier, and he had also suggested, like, if you make a copy of the page or you take the page out and you put it in one of those page protectors that you put in binders, and they can use dry erase markers and trace over it that way. So that way you're not making a whole bunch of copies as well, which I thought was a great idea as well, which I'll probably use that. And then that way I'll also make it easier if they're all detached out of there and in a notebook or a binder. It'll make it easier to make the copies and everything too. So I have some workbooks in there. A lot of them are focused on, it's the HSK, which is an assessment test that they use over in China to assess like what level they're at with their Chinese. But I think it's a good way for our kids to help prepare for the AP exam that they start taking at the end of 9th grade. Just because it's got a lot of vocabulary in there that they should know and focus on. Other things I have on there are some flashcard kits, and I bought one. Johnny, will you go grab the flashcard kit on the island, please? Thank you. I forgot to grab that. I'm sorry, guys. And it's huge. I paid maybe $10 or $13 for this big box of flashcards, and it's really cool because on the front of the flashcards it has the character, but it numbers. Thank you. My husband grabbed it for me. So this big box, and it is just stuffed full with flashcards. And this is the beginner. This is the beginner box. So, but I have, like, this is so many characters. I think that there's probably characters in there that my older kids don't even know yet. So I think it's going to be great. So on the front, you can see is the character, but it numbers the stroke marks so the kids know how to write it properly. My husband is always getting on my kids because he says they're like, oh, it doesn't matter which order I write my strokes as long as it all looks the same. My husband's like, no, your teacher's gonna know. And I'm like, I don't know how they know that, but I guess they know. I believe that they do know that. I honestly believe that's what I'm trying to say. I honestly do believe that the teachers know the difference between a character written properly and a character that was just written down in different orders. So I like the fact that this teaches the kids how to write the characters in order. And so on the back, it has the pinyin, and then it adds another character in there. And this is, I don't know if this is backwards or not, but then it like shows you how to put them together in a phrase or something like that. And then sorry. And so I really like that. I don't know why my camera is getting so fuzzy. And it came with some clips, so you can clip together the ones that your kids are currently working on, and they won't get lost in this huge box. They're also numbered down in the bottom corner here, so that way you can tell what numbers they're working on. But I like clipping them together so that way I know. And there's like 5 different colored rings, so then I can be like, okay, Charlie's working on the blue ones, Allie's on the red ones, and Johnny's on the green ones. So that I like those. These were probably one of my favorite buys that I got because my 3rd grader is the one who's struggling. So starting at the beginning there and refreshing his mind with the characters that he's learned helps build his confidence, and then we start getting to the harder ones, and I think it'll help him out a lot, especially with he's the one who's like, oh, I'm just gonna write it, and as long as it looks the same, it's great. So having him practice the exact writing of the character is also really good for him. So there's some books on my list that are geared more towards the super young. So you saw my little 3-year-old there. We are going to add him into the Chinese program as well. So the younger we can get him started, I think the better off he's going to be. So my older kids, like, they love trying to teach him how to say like naughty things. And he tries to repeat it, and I'll admit it's cute, but at the same time it's kind of annoying. But they do like trying to teach him how to speak and everything. So there's a couple of workbooks in there for preschoolers as well. So if you want to get your younger kids started, you've got resources to do that. There were, I think I could only find 2 actual like Chinese games. I couldn't really even find any that were translated into Chinese. But there's one that's kind of a cross between checkers and Othello, and you're moving these black and white pieces on a board. And that one is a Chinese game. That's something that they play in China. And I can't remember what the other one is because I'm not looking at my list right now. But they are on there, so that way you can engage your children, and they can have fun at the same time. It's like they're playing a game while studying their Chinese, or just playing for culture reasons even. So the next thing I was going to cover before I pass this over is apps. So I downloaded a few apps on my phone that even my older ones started using, and they thought it was fun. So all of these are free apps at the beginning, and a couple of them have the options to where if you want to purchase the extension pack, then it gives you the more advanced and harder lessons or vocabulary or something. So then it could be towards your older kids as well. For the first one I wanted to talk about was Playco, and this is a wonderful app, especially if they are studying a book or reading a book. They can use this one. Sorry, it's spelled Pleco, and it looks like this little blue one here. Oh, it's not going to show up. But Playco is here. And it's where you can draw in, oh, that's going to be bright. You can actually draw the character that you are looking to translate. And if you draw the character, it brings up the characters that it thinks that you're trying to do. And then you can click on it, or you just hit enter. And then it comes up with the pinyin, the definition in English, and then kind of uses it in some sentences so that way you can understand it. So this has been a huge help when the kids were reading the more advanced books. We started using it like for the Monkey King and everything, because there are some words in there that they're not going to know, which is the purpose, because we're trying to expand their learning horizons. So I really like this app. My husband used it when he was learning Chinese as well. So it's been very useful in our home to use that one. So that one's Playco. The other one is Infinite Chinese. INFINITE Chinese. And this one's more of a game. And the fun of this game is, and my kids love, this is the one my kids love. And this is also the one where you can purchase the expansion, so you get the harder vocabulary and everything. But you get to, there's categories, and then you can choose like numbers, colors, there's drinks, weather, clothes, fruit, vegetables, and then there's more. And then when you buy, you get 18 new categories, and then harder and everything. So we'll probably buy the expansion pack, so that way my middle schooler and my almost sixth grader can, because she's breezing through them. She's like, oh, I know this one, and it's so easy, which is great, because then it's like, it's refreshing for her, and then she moves on to the harder stuff, and then she starts to learn. But I really like this one because it speaks to you. Now the tone is off, because I'll play it and I'll be repeating the what they say, and my kids and even my husband are like, no, it's this way, and I'm like, well, that's what she said. So it's helpful. And then you can also, like, there's the thing up here where you, under categories, where you can click on it, it says pinyin, and you can review the whole list of what they're saying, so they can read the pinyin and know how to pronounce it properly, because our kids know how to recognize the tones and the accents over the letters, so that way they know how to pronounce it properly, which I don't yet. I mean, I'm learning. But it's like a little rocket game, and you get like little raindrops that are dropping, and you've got to match it up. So it'll have the character and then the pinyin under, and you have to match it up and everything. So it's really good, because then or it's like for colors, it's got a color dot, and you've got to pick the character or the pinyin that it is. That it goes with. So they really like this one. I've enjoyed playing it. I've been trying to learn a little bit with them too. I figure it's probably about time, when my first one who went through is going into 9th grade next year. I should probably start to learn something. The other one I like is Hello Chinese. And this one's more of like a learning app. So if any of you parents are interested in learning Chinese with your kids, this is a great one, because it starts at the very beginning for us, or there are options where you can tell them that you're advanced or intermediate or anything like that. So you can kind of customize it to your level. I started at the beginning, so I don't know how advanced or how intermediate it is, but it's called Hello Chinese, and it's just got a little picture of, I'm sorry, I don't even know how to like make it to where you guys can see it. But it's got a little picture of an older Chinese cartoon gentleman with a little man bun, and then the beard on it. I really liked that one. Chinese words quiz is it's like adding characters together, so you've got to put them. I don't know how to best phrase that. It's like where you just put them together, and you're reading phrases and everything. So it's getting out of this one. It's called Chinese Words Quiz. The other one is Chinese Listening Quiz. And I really liked this one because the tone and pronunciation on the Chinese Listening Quiz is much better, much clearer. My kids are like, yeah, that's how you say it. So if you're going for and this is good because this is going to help them practice their listening skills, which is also something that they need to do. So for listening, and this one also goes to more advanced levels as well. So it can start at the beginning and go to advanced, and it's definitely, listening is definitely something that they need to work on. And then Chinese stroke order, and that's where they can practice. Gosh, I'm sorry, I keep trying to show you. They can practice writing their characters, and it shows them the stroke order, and they can practice as many times as they want on that certain character. It's like, it's very much at your own pace on that one. It's not like a test or a quiz or anything. It's just for their own information. If you upgrade to the pro version, then you can add words yourself. So if you have specific characters that you want to practice, you can add them to them. And the vocabulary list that they have available also is much broader on there. But that's my part of the presentation. I did just get the 10-minute warning, so I'm just going to remind all of you, and then our new people, when this ends, when it cuts off on us, you can re-click on the exact same link that you clicked to get here to this meeting and rejoin us, and we will be here, and then we will finish our presentation, and then you guys will have a chance also to ask us questions, and even make suggestions or comments of your own, because we would love, if you have things to share with us, we would absolutely love to hear the knowledge that you guys have to share with us as well. So I'm going to mute mine and turn this over to Craig. And then like I said before, I am going to probably in the next meeting, because I don't know if the comments carry over. So in the next one, I'll add the links to my Amazon list and see if I can also, I'll type out the names of all those apps for you guys too, so you can copy those down. So go ahead, Craig.
Great. I mean, that was fascinating. I mean, I've learned a lot. I wasn't sure, what kinds of things you were going to talk about, and it was really excellent. I've got my son here kind of helping out. We've just got the better Chinese books that you get from the school. Thanks, Ezra. Okay. What I did was I've been kind of keeping a blog of what I've been learning, how we've been learning with my kids, because what happened with me was my kids last year were not in Mandarin. I taught first grade in Cascade, and my son was in that class. And then last year we were in Salt Lake and not in Mandarin. And so over the summer I had to catch them up because they started in again this year. And then when school, we didn't go in, we were remote learning. So I didn't have them in school until last week. Like now my parents are vaccinated and we kind of felt like they could go in. So I've been teaching them at home. And so I've kind of been keeping a record of what I've been teaching. And I just put a link in the chat to the blog that I've been writing. And I just tried to write a quick post for tonight, the one that's at the top there, about trying to get an hour of Chinese for your kids. And I have a completely different slant than Heather. And I really appreciate what you said about the books. Like, we don't have books, and those prices on Amazon are great. And it sounds like I want to get that bundle of 20 books, because you just want books lying around that the kids are going to pick up. You want it to be a choice. And then also, as you get older, then you got to have books that meet the older kids' interests. And I think the Mandarin Companion, I've heard great things about that. Jared Turner is a Utah guy who founded that company. And I hear really good reviews about that, because we've got to get our kids reading Chinese for pleasure if we want them to get really good at Chinese. Because if they're just doing it in class, it won't be enough. Now, my kids are younger, first and third grade. And so the things that I recommend in this link that I just sent across are more suited for the younger kids. And what I try to do now that the kids are back in school is I try to do an hour, a dedicated hour where they're going to get exposure to Chinese. And it was kind of like Heather was saying, instead of just getting the vocabulary they're learning in class, I want them to get different kinds of vocabulary. I want them to hear other kinds of people speaking and just expand their horizons. Because right now we're so dependent on the teacher in the classroom, and sometimes that's all the Chinese they get. And if they're going to get good, they need to have experience with, different kinds of speakers, different vocabulary, different contexts. And so what I do is I use a lot of internet stuff, and there's a lot of great stuff out there. And it took me a while to find it. At first, I thought you had to go to the Chinese sites to get it, but I found out that most of it is on YouTube. So what happens is it comes out on the Chinese sites, just like we have YouTube here. and then someone picks it up and puts it onto YouTube here in America as the Chinese. So you can just get right on and pretty much see anything you want. Like the best stuff that the kids in China are watching, we can get on YouTube right here. And so as I started to work that out, it saved me a lot of time because at first I was going into the Chinese sites and then I was trying to think, I need to be a member and all that. So, it's kind of a process of just trial and error. And then also I'm involved in some of these Facebook groups that are national, where it's supporting, there's a few Facebook groups that support Mandarin learning and kids who are homeschooling. And so I've got suggestions from them too, people who've kind of gone through and they say, just try these things out. And so that's how I found things. The first one that I mentioned in the blog is just a cartoon, and it's called Dato儿子小头爸爸, and it's just a kind of cute cartoon about a family and great vocabulary, 5-minute episodes, so it's really short. The kids, even if they understand like 50%, they'll still watch it probably, and they'll get better with each episode. What I like about a series, this one, the link that I sent that's in the blog has 100 episodes, and each episode has two. We're talking 200 5-minute episodes right there. Because what I don't like to do is be hunting around for a new thing every week. I want just a list, and then the kids can just go one by one, and there's continuity there, and they start to get feel for the characters and the style and the language. And then by the end, they're really understanding what's going on. And there are 4 or 5 things that I could recommend like that, but I just thought this cartoon, Dato Baba, or Dato儿子小头爸爸, is a good place to start. So that's the first one that I put on. The second one I put on is something they call Happy Chinese, and it's a series that was made in Beijing, kind of for foreigners that are trying to learn Chinese, and it's like a sitcom. So it's a family, and there's an American student who's studying abroad there, and she's kind of stereotypically like dumb American, like tell me about China kind of things. But it's really kind of fun and funny, and my kids, even though this is probably for older kids, but my kids actually like this, and I like that it's real people because I'm not crazy about screen time. I don't like games and animation that much. So real people talking in real situations, I think, is great. And that's what I like about Happy Chinese, because it's just people in a house and things happen that are quite simple, and they're little tidbits of language learning. So it's kind of a nice combination of everything. And then 15 minutes, that's about the limit my kids can do before they need a break. And so that's the second thing that I recommended. The third thing is apps. So if we're going to do a 1-hour block, the way I try to approach this is we got 20 minutes of the cartoons, we got 20 minutes of that sitcom, and then we got 20 minutes of apps. And apps, when I studied Chinese, there wasn't even the internet really. So now, the apps, when I saw that for the first time with my kids, I was so amazed because they're so well done. And, we're just beginning in terms of what kinds of learning we can do on apps and how to approach it. But even for the good Chinese apps on there, when I get on and play with it, I just think it's just amazing because, they'll have you be writing the characters with your fingers, and you have to get the stroke orders right or you can't get to the next level. Really interactive, the gamification of it, and the kids are engaged. And what I like about an iPad too is you can sit on a couch or somewhere else. It's not like a computer. So I want them in that hour to not just be sitting in front of a screen, and I want them to have different experiences. And so that's why I try to pick 3 things that are different styles, and then also different device. So Ezra's showing us some flashcards that we've got, but I was not going to focus on that today, but he's good with those. So when we talk about the apps, there are 2 that I recommend, and Heather had recommended 4 or 5. And when you go on there are a ton, because it's kind of easy to make a very basic app and just kind of get it up there, put it in the store, and just hope people get on it. And so it's really hard to sort. And what I've done is tried to go into these other groups and see what people recommend over and over, and then try them out myself. And I've kind of settled on 2 that I like. One's called, it's iHuman is the English name of it. But it's some company in Tianjin, China, like just kind of this town that's not really famous for anything, but they've developed this game that is very modern and interactive and engaging. And so we've been doing that, and I actually bought, because you start out free, and then the kids are finished with it, and it was engaging enough. And I've got 3 kids, and we have an iPad, so I thought, okay, we'll go ahead and buy it. And I've been really happy with that. It has levels, and it's deep, and it just, I think they're learning a lot on it. And it's a totally different learning style than sitting in a classroom or writing characters with a pencil. This is interactive, and they're trying to get levels and win, little coins that they can do things with, and they're engaged. And that's really important to me, because if they're not having fun, they're probably going to be reluctant to get it really stuck in their brain. So I'm really happy with that. And then the other one is Kada Gusher. And all it is it's a reading app, audiobooks. And I think it's so important for the kids to be reading and not have animation that's moving. It's like pages with text under them, and the book's read to you while you're reading along, and you're not getting busy watching the motion of the characters. You are watching a single still image while you're reading, just like a book. And it's like, a parent reading to a child on a couch. And I think that's a really important style for kids to have. And I'm not good enough in my Chinese to read that well as a native speaker, and so this is really the only way I can do it. And we started that on free for a long time. I kind of dragged my feet, and then eventually we went ahead and bought it because it's got a really deep library. And I don't know if it's the best one, but I just finally decided it's worth it, and it's been great so far. So those are the kinds of things. We're going to get cut off here, and we'll see who wants to come back. And this is kind of a trial thing, and it's been fun to